Good afternoon, Mr. President, ministers, Ambassador of the United States of America to South Africa, Her Excellency Lana Marx, Consul Generals of South Africa in the United States, President of Business Council for International Understanding, President and CEO of Corporate Council on Africa, President of the U.S. Africa Business Council, and Senior Vice President of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, business executives and officials. Good morning from Washington, D.C., and good afternoon in South Africa. It is my great pleasure, Mr. President, to welcome you to this virtual U.S.-South Africa Business and Investment Roundtable to engage with U.S. private sector, some of which are already investing in South Africa and others looking to invest soon. We thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule dealing with the health and economic impact of COVID-19 in South Africa and in the continent as the current African Union chairperson. Mr. President, we look forward to your remarks and thank you for your leadership in continuing to prioritize increasing investment and also growing our trade with the United States. I will now invite our partners from the BCIU, CCA, and Chamber, with whom the Embassy of South Africa in Washington, D.C. has been working with tirelessly to promote trade and investment between South Africa and the United States, but to also deliver their opening remarks, starting with Mr. Peter Tchaikovsky, the President and CEO of BCIU. Over to you, Peter.
Ambassador, Mr. President, it's great to be with you. The Business Council for International Understanding turned 65 today. I would love to just say that we are stalwart supporters. We are intent on widening the circle of companies that are going to engage with your government, and as usual, look toward the government to facilitate and to serve as an ombudsman for the foreign investor community. I want to make sure to thank our private sector sponsors from today's event, beginning with Henry Schein, PepsiCo, and mention AB InBev, Procter & Gamble, Varian Medical Systems, Digital Learning Network, and Covington and Burling. And to make a special thanks to South African American Stanley Bergman from Henry Schein. We are pleased to be with you again after our last roundtable, which was during the G20 in Osaka in 2018. And we look forward to our dialogue. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Flory Leeser, the president of CCA, to carry us forward.
Thank you, Peter. I'm Flory Leeser, President and CEO of Corporate Council on Africa, and delighted to be co-hosting with our colleagues this Business and Investment Roundtable on South Africa, one of the largest and most critical African economies. I would like to thank Ambassador Nomendia Mfeketo for her leadership in making this virtual meeting possible. Thanks also to Ambassador Marx for taking time to join us. This is an important time to bring senior executives from so many US companies who are trading with and investing in South Africa or would like to do so, to hear from and engage with you, President Ramaphosa, on the opportunities there in South Africa. Thanks to you for accepting our invitation to join us today for this roundtable, and a special thank you to our sponsors for their generous support. President Ramaphosa, it is an honor to have you as our special guest. Thank you so much for joining us. I commend you for your leadership as chairman of the African Union in bringing together Africa's partners, including the United States, to create the support and fiscal space necessary to meet the health and economic challenges facing Africa today as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. I also congratulate you and your government on marshaling public and private sector resources to save both lives and livelihoods in South Africa. CCA looks forward to working with you and your government and with those in the new US government under President-elect Biden, as well as the US private sector, to support post-COVID economic recovery in South Africa, in the nations all across the continent, and here in the United States as well. I look forward to an insightful conversation between you and our distinguished private sector leaders who are already playing a critical role in your country, and hope that they and many others will participate in the upcoming South Africa Investment Summit later this month. I would like to now invite Scott Eisner, President, U.S. Africa Business Center at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, to make his remarks.
Thank you very much, Flory. And thank you very much, Mr. President, for agreeing to participate in today's roundtable, and I'd like to recognize as well the two ambassadors for their stewardship in moving the relationship forward. I also like to thank BCIU and CCA for their steadfast partnership over many years, and thanks again to our sponsors, in particular with PepsiCo, Henry Schein, Digital Learning, Varian, Procter & Gamble, AB InBev, and Covington Merling. We know that South Africa has been hit particularly hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, and recognize the President's leadership and his swift and comprehensive government response over the last 6 months. A little bit about the Chamber as well. We're over a 100-year-old organization. We are also home to the U.S. South Africa Business Council, the only bilateral business council focused in the United States on strengthening the ties between the two countries. I think this is about the 4th time we hosted the President. In fact, just 2 years ago, we spent over 2 hours with a board of the U.S. Africa Business Center when it convened in South Africa. A testament to the commitment to be responsive to needs of investors. The President responsive then, and he is responsive now. We continue to show our leadership in South Africa. In fact, at last year's Investor Summit, alongside the President, Minister Patel, we relaunched the U.S. South Africa Business Council. We made a commitment then to double U.S. company presence in South Africa in the next 5 years. And even with COVID impacting our expansion plans, we still think we can hit this goal. We've been working to strengthen institutions like SAHPRA, the South African Health Products Regulatory Agency, to ensure that South African citizens have access to the latest life-saving drugs and medical devices, which is now more important than ever. And in 2019, we hosted the second iteration of the Digital Economy Conference that focused on workforce development in South Africa. In the light of the pandemic, we'd like to work with South Africa around the concept of supply chain diversification to bring more companies to South Africa's shores. And no one knows more about supply chains than Pepsi. It's now my honor to turn over to our sponsor today, Mr. Eugene Williamson, CEO of Africa, Middle East, and Asia at PepsiCo, to introduce His Excellency, President Ramaphosa. Thank you very much, and we look forward to a robust conversation today.
Thank you so much, Scott, and thank you, President, for joining us this evening here in Pakistan, at least this afternoon in South Africa. It's a real pleasure to see you again, and I would like to commend you on your leadership during these unprecedented times. I think you and your government have done an outstanding job managing South Africa to a very turbulent period, but also would like to commend your leadership in really facilitating what I think is becoming a better investment climate within the country. As you all know, PepsiCo invested recently $1.7 billion in South Africa through the acquisition of Pioneer Foods. And we really look forward to work together with you and with your government to make this acquisition a success, not only for PepsiCo shareholders, but also for the country and for the communities in which we operate. As part of the acquisition, we signed up to a series of public interest commitments. And amongst others, this is a development fund that in total is 600 million rand. We're currently working actively with many other stakeholders to ensure that this development fund ultimately is going to benefit the development of the agricultural sector in South Africa, which we see as a critical sector that ultimately also will drive the economic development of many rural communities, as well as investment in education and learnerships in order to contribute to skills building across the country. As part of this initiative, one of the areas that we would like to invest in and where we need support from other stakeholders is the creation of an ecosystem that ultimately will stitch together academia, government, the food industry, as well as the agricultural sector. We call this a food valley, and I think this is a very aspirational idea that we've launched about a year ago during the World Economic Forum in Cape Town. An idea that currently is gaining, I think, a lot of momentum both within our organization as well as with other stakeholders. And we look forward to engage with you, Your Excellency, with the government, but obviously also with many of the private sector participants on this call to make that vision of creating a food valley in South Africa that ultimately will elevate the state of food processing and agriculture, as well as science in the country, together with all the stakeholders that need to be involved. So with that, let me hand over to the next speaker. Thank you.
I think, Mr. President, that's the transition to you. So we're honored to have you with us today, and thank you for your remarks.
Well, thank you so much, Ambassador Noma India Mfeketo, Ambassador Lana Marks, business leaders, and ladies and gentlemen. It is a real honor and a great privilege to participate in this roundtable discussion with representatives of U.S. business. I want to begin by congratulating the American people for the manifestation that you've all been involved in the past few days of electing new leadership. The United States is a long-standing and valued partner of South Africa, and we look forward to further strengthening our ties of friendship and cooperation with the incoming administration. This Business and Investment Roundtable is taking place at an important time as we are all dealing with COVID-19. Together with countries around the world, both the United States and South Africa have begun the arduous task of rebuilding our economies while working to overcome the coronavirus pandemic. Just as cooperation and solidarity have enabled us to respond to the pandemic, so too is partnership and collaboration vital to the recovery effort that we are all getting involved in. It is now more important than ever for South Africa and the US to deepen our strategic partnership conducted through a number of political and economic forums. The United States is South Africa's third largest trading partner. On a continental level, last year we were the largest source of African imports to the US, followed by Nigeria, Egypt, and Algeria. South Africa is a leading recipient of US foreign direct investment in Africa and is the largest African investor in the US. There are over 600 US companies in South Africa, as you know, many of which have had a presence in our market for decades. They've been our partners and have been supporters of our country over many, many years. These investments remain key to our economic growth and continue to support thousands of jobs, both here in South Africa as well as in the US. It is this firm foundation that we want to build upon. This is what we want to strengthen as we prepare to host the third South Africa Investment Conference in a week's time. I have no doubt that, as in previous years, there will be a strong showing by US companies and investors at our South Africa Investment Conference. Since our first Investment Conference in 2018, we've been working steadily and steadfastly to create an enabling environment for both foreign and local companies to thrive in our market. We're focusing on key reforms in the energy, telecommunications, and logistics industries to improve the competitiveness of our economy. We continue to work with industry stakeholders to fast-track measures to reduce the cost of doing business and lowering barriers to entry. Last month, we launched an economic reconstruction and recovery plan to restart our economy after the devastating impact of the pandemic on growth and employment. The plan itself identifies 4 priority intervention areas. The first one is a massive infrastructure build program. Second one is to significantly expand energy generation capacity. And thirdly, to have and launch an employment stimulus through social and public projects. And fourthly, to accelerate industrialization through local production. Even though it has been just a few weeks since the plan was launched, we have long begun work to deliver on the commitments that are set out in the plan. As we say in the plan, there is a ruthless focus on implementation. Infrastructure has immense potential to stimulate investment and growth in our country. It also has the immense potential to develop other economic sectors and create sustainable employment both directly and indirectly. To this end, we have developed a robust pipeline of projects around the country with an investment value of 2.3 trillion rand, or around $150 billion. That will transform the landscape of our cities, our towns, as well as the rural areas of our country. The prospects for sustained growth depend to a large extent on our ability to give all South Africans a meaningful stake in the economy of our country. Measures such as broad-based Black economic empowerment are vital not only to correct the injustices of our past and overcome the inequalities of the present, but also to ensure that our economy is able to realize its full potential with all our people participating meaningfully in the economy of their country as creators of wealth. We welcome the support that we have received from many US firms that operate in South Africa in advancing empowerment and understanding the need for this empowerment process, including through their use of innovative and transformative equity equivalent schemes. There are many new opportunities for US companies to participate in our economy as we seek to increase investment in our productive capacity. I want to mention here the recently concluded deal between one of our own pharmaceutical companies, Aspen Pharmacare, and 2 subsidiaries of Johnson & Johnson to manufacture COVID-19 candidate vaccine here in South Africa. This is yet another demonstration of partnership between South Africa and American business, making use of our world-class manufacturing capacity to answer a pressing global health need. Growing domestic manufacturing is a key component of our recovery plan. Much work is underway in South Africa. We have, for example, already finalized master plans in the automotive, in the clothing and textile and poultry and sugar industries. Now, these plans, in which the respective industry participants agree on practical measures to develop the sector are fast becoming platforms to attract investment and to generate growth. Off the back of the two auto master plans, for example, we have received 60 billion rand, or around $4 billion, in investment pledges from vehicle and component manufacturers. We're working with the respective industries to finalize master plans for the digital economy, the forestry, aerospace and defense, renewable energy, and a host of other important industries. These all present opportunities for enhancing trade and investment. As we drive the implementation of our respective economic recovery plans, such interactions between government and business are very vital. The African Continental Free Trade Area, which will come into operation in January, will have a massive impact on African economies, particularly on trade and investment. A World Bank report from June this year estimates that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area could contribute to an increase in real income gains for the continent of something in the range of 7%, or nearly $450 billion by 2035. With its relatively developed industrial base and the measures underway to expand manufacturing capacity, will provide. At the same time, Africa's export sectors will need more international trade agreements to access market opportunities and global value chains. We must strengthen collaboration on skills transfer, on training, and on information sharing. We must reduce impediments to trade, both tariff and non-tariff. Greater investment and trade between our two countries is key to our collective growth and prosperity. I'd like to see us continue together to strengthen the trade environment and investment climate in our respective countries. In the wake of COVID-19, this assumes added and very urgent attention. In the words of Abraham Lincoln, the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. I'd like to thank you again for this opportunity and look forward to our discussions during the course of this 1 hour. I thank you.
Mr. President, thank you very much for that very compelling presentation. Let me introduce myself. I'm Whitney Schneidman. I'm Senior Advisor for Africa at Covington & Burling, where I also chair the Africa practice. Covington & Burling is a law firm, 101 years old in Washington, D.C. And we have an office, an Africa-facing office in Johannesburg, where we are 3 years old. And it's a reflection of our deep commitment to the continent. So it's my honor to be the moderator of today's conversation. And just before we get to the questions, I just want to note that since you launched your investment effort, very bold initiative for $150 billion of investment 3 years ago, that in fact, US foreign direct investment in South Africa has grown about 8%. To about $8 billion. And I think that's an accurate reflection of the response to your effort, not only to attract more investment, but to get your government to be good partners for American companies. So before we get into the questions, I was just struck by that one example that you gave us, Mr. President, about Aspen Pharma and Johnson & Johnson. And just wanted to ask if you could give us one more example of what you see as a model US investment in South Africa as it relates to cooperation between business executives and government, job creation, environmental standards, and all the relevant and technology transfer, the priorities that you have enunciated. If I could just get your thought, just a response to that, and then we'll get into the questions.
Thank you very much for that question. There are so many numerous examples of how US companies have jumped to the occasion and have done even much more than what we had expected. And I cite Aspen Pharmacare together with Johnson & Johnson, but there have been many more. The acquisition by PepsiCo of Pioneer Foods is a great example where there was real good collaboration. The participation, continued participation of AB InBev
I think we have a bit of a pause here.
Yeah.
Mr. President?
of technology, transfer of knowledge, and all these companies that I've cited have brought investments into South Africa, massive investments, which we welcome. They've also brought technology. They've brought the creation of jobs and preservation of jobs. And for this, we really applaud them. But they've also sharpened our own wits in as far as continuing to urge us to create a climate that is conducive for business to operate. Much of the reforms that we are embarking upon now have also to a large extent been inspired by those businesses, but also by our collaboration with the American Chamber of Commerce colleagues who we've continued to be in discussions with. And we see these colleagues as friends, as great supporters of our country. And we truly welcome the participation of US-based businesses in our country. And we are continuing to look forward to more and further investments as we move on. We still need to reach our target, as you correctly said, of reaching our 1 trillion rand of investment. We're now at 680 billion, and we think we are on the way there. And our conference in a week or two is going to be a confirmation of our resolve to ensure that we do attract investments into South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that great answer, Mr. President. It's much appreciated. And I think we all salute your commitment to compete for $150 billion in the global economy. Let me just pivot to our first question. You mentioned AB InBev. Our first question will come from Mr. Carlos Brito, who is the CEO of AB InBev. Carlos.
Well, Mr. President, thank you for taking the time to meet with us during this challenging time, and also for your guidance, resilience, and leadership during this global pandemic. Your plans for getting the South Africa economy back on track were important prior to COVID-19, and they're even more critical now, given the disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. We at SAB, a proud partner of AB InBev with a 125-year history in South Africa, have a vested interest in the recovery of South Africa. SAB remains committed, now more than ever, to support your government to help more South Africans, as you said, fast-track economic recovery and enable 1 million livelihoods across our sector to be sustained. Recognizing that the beer value chain is an engine of economic growth, last week, AB InBev announced that we'll make 1.2 billion rand investment into the packaging industry here in South Africa. We have also heard your request, and we're working with your government, not only on the economic recovery, but also on addressing the harmful use of alcohol through the development of a social compact. I'm pleased to share that our SAB team is leading the industry in engaging your cabinet members in transport, social development, health, and trade to finalize this important initiative. Mr. President, for an industry such as ours, policy certainty is crucial for our business to continue to grow and for us to drive further investment into South Africa. I'd like to know your thoughts on how the government can provide investors such as AB InBev more certainty on how you intend to work with our sector in addressing key regulatory and fiscal policy concerns. Thank you for the opportunity.
Mr. President, over to you.
No, thank you very much. Carlos, wonderful to see you. Haven't seen you in a long time. And good to see you as we go through this turmoil of this pandemic. And thank you very much for reassuring that AB InBev will continue to be a citizen of South Africa, having been here for 125 years. You are a valued company in South Africa, highly valued, and your commitment to our nation is really, really clear. And your continued investment and you willing to be part of the social compact that we are crafting with business is something that we are very proud of. In as far as our own commitment to regulatory proper management of our economy, I can assure you that this is part of our reforms, as well as the fiscal prudence as well. This is part of our reforms. Our public finances have been put in a very difficult and dicey situation as a result of COVID-19. And we've been having to deal with a weakened economy over many years with increasing social needs and requiring more and more expenditure and increasing debt. And we've come to terms with the reality that we've got to manage our debt down from a fiscal point of view, and that's precisely what we've now decided firmly to do, following from the medium-term budget policy statement that our Minister of Finance delivered. We've in a way drawn the line that we've got to manage our debt down, and we've also made a very clear statement that we're embarking and fostering the reforms that are going to reposition the economy of our country. In many ways, Carlos, we have no choice. There's just no other alternative, because any other alternative means that we're going down the precipice. And we are not daredevils like that. We want to reform our economy, strengthen the economy so that more and more investments can come into the country and we can create more jobs. So on the regulatory side, we are committed to ensuring that we have the type of regulatory framework that is going to enhance business. We want to be a business-friendly economy where business can have certainty about our regulatory architecture and that they are able to invest. But more than that, on the fiscal management side of our economy, business should also know and have confidence in the fact that we will so manage this economy that it will not tilt over. So we want to give you the assurance that we are creating that environment, and it's a wholesome type of environment which will make sure that all the economic players in our economy have confidence in the continued strengthening of the economic fortunes of South Africa, because there is no other way but the way forward is to ensure that we manage the economy properly. So thank you very much, Carlos, for posing that question.
Thank you, Mr. President, and count on us in whichever way we can help. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Brito. Let me now shift to Thomas Lamena, who's the CEO of the Digital Learning Network. Thomas.
Many thanks, and good afternoon, Mr. President. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to be on this discussion this morning, this afternoon, your time. A special thanks to Her Excellency, Madam Ambassador. We shepherd a $2.8 billion digital infrastructure development project through Her Excellency. And we are in discussions with the Department of Trade and Investments in South Africa. We have been informed discussion have begun with the 4-hour commission. The director for our commission is moving the project forward. We're very excited about this project because the project is an opportunity, and it allows us to source devices for this project right from within South Africa. We're not just building digital infrastructure, but we also have within the project providing devices.
I think we have some technical difficulties. Thomas, you're frozen here for a second.
I'm sorry?
All right, you're frozen.
Look, I apologize. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, again, I must apologize. Again, I want to say thanks to Mr. President for the opportunity for this discussion. Special thanks to Her Excellency, Madam Ambassador, for the project proposed to the Ministry of Trade and Investment. The project is a $2 billion investment to build the digital infrastructure for the education sector. In addition, it includes
Thomas, you keep going in and out. I think we got the first part. Thomas, if I can suggest maybe just try to post the question.
Within this sector as well. The Ministry of Trade and Investment has shepherded. Okay, I'm going to shut my video off. Hopefully, is this better?
Yes.
Is this better?
Yes, it is better.
Terrific.
Again, and maybe you could just go to the question, Thomas.
Okay, actually it was more of a quick comment, just saying thanks and extending our appreciation to His Excellency for according us the opportunity to be on this call this morning and afternoon his time. The project we are working on is a $2.8 billion initiative to develop the digital infrastructure for the education sector of South Africa. We are in discussion with the Ministry of Trade and Investments, and discussion has moved forward to the 4-hour commission within the presidency. We want to say again, thank you to Her Excellency, Madam Ambassador, for moving this project forward. Thank you to Ms. Lizier from the Corporate Council, and we look forward to working with the team in country in South Africa on this development. Thank you.
Thomas, thanks so much for that. It's an awesome project. Mr. President, I don't know if you have any comments on that.
to comment. I do want to comment, and I'd like to thank Thomas for his remarks and his comments, and more particularly about the engagement that he's been having with my office staff, as well as with the 4IR commission that we've set in place. So we're quite delighted. But what brings a smile to my face, obviously, is the commitment for the $2.8 billion commitment to invest in South Africa. Thomas, you couldn't make a president happier. So I'm a very happy president to hear about that. It's music to my ears. But then again, I should say that we will continue to work with corporations and firms like yourself to continue improving the investment environment in our country. And we welcome the fact that you are engaging through your firm with our officials. And I'm sure that that engagement will bear fruit. But thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Great. Thank you to both. Now let's go to Kevin O'Reilly, who's Senior Vice President and President of Varian Oncology Systems. Kevin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Schneiderman, and it's a real pleasure to be here today with you, President Ramaphosa. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our comments and our questions. At Varian, we're the world's leading provider of radiation therapy devices. And as you can see from the banner here behind me, our vision is a world without fear of cancer. In fact, our products and services are used every day around the world in almost every country, and we impact over 4.5 million cancer patients each and every year. And we think that we can also have a very, very big impact in Africa, and in particular in South Africa. And in particular there, we recently went direct and opened up our office so that we could provide higher service levels to hospitals and to cancer patients throughout the region. And so we're very, very happy to make that commitment. I think globally, we all know that in this environment that healthcare is right at the top of everybody's mind. And certainly the pandemic has been taking everybody's, the top of everybody's thoughts. But cancer remains an incredibly important disease, and it is a leading cause of mortality in South Africa, exceeding even tuberculosis now. We also believe that there are challenges within the healthcare system where there is a lack of access to care with significant backlogs and sometimes very, very long waiting lists to be able to receive treatment, which in the case of cancer, as you can imagine, can be devastating because early treatment has a big impact on people's lives. As you and your cabinet think through these issues, we just want to let you know that that Varian really would like to be a partner for you and for the South African government as you address these cancer challenges. And we think that we can offer some assistance and some help, some private sector ideas on how we might improve investments within the healthcare system. In particular, of course, we'd be happy to offer our perspective on your cancer plans. We do know that the Ministry of Health is exploring oncology as one of the first areas to pilot the National Health Insurance Initiative. And we're very, very happy about that. And we'd love to continue to support on both the planning and on the implementation of that. So, Mr. President, my question to you is, could you comment on how you see the future of cancer care in South Africa and how Varian and other private sector companies might be able to support you even more effectively? Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much. When I addressed the nation to give the state of the nation at the beginning of the year, we singled out healthcare as one of the key areas of priority that we needed to address, because healthcare is a fundamental right. It's enshrined in our constitution, and it is to this end that we've adopted a national health insurance process where we want to make healthcare affordable and accessible to all South Africans. And it is a system through which we are going to pool funds to provide funding for the healthcare that we need to provide to all our people. And cancer treatment is part of that process, because cancer and all forms of cancer are the types of diseases that are so widespread, and many of our people suffer from cancer. And so therefore we want to increase management of cancer, and companies such as yourself, is going to be a very important stakeholder working with us to enable South Africa to manage cancer treatment adequately as part of our national healthcare insurance, because our NHI, as we call it, is aimed at giving universal healthcare coverage to all South Africans and ensuring that the inequality that has always existed in our healthcare is gotten rid of, and we are able to pool funding and make healthcare accessible at an affordable rate. So working together with our hospitals, working together with our health department, a company such as yours would be a valued partner, and we would want to continue working with a company like yours, because you will give us that world-class capability. Already, much as our healthcare faces enormous challenges from our past, it is the type of healthcare that still has incredible world-class features. You will recall what South Africa did in terms of leadership on heart transplants, and we faced a major challenge with HIV/AIDS, and we've been managing that over the years, and facing the specter of tuberculosis, diabetes, but we continue to manage those. And so with cancer treatment, we would want to cooperate at a fairly high level with companies such as yours. So we would welcome your involvement, your continued involvement in South Africa, and you will also be helping to transfer skills and knowledge and technology. So you will continue to be our partner, and thank you very much for your presence in South Africa.
Thank you, and you can count on us. We're happy to help.
Mr. President, we're making good progress. My role is not only moderator, but timekeeper. I'm conscious. We've got 2 more questions, and then maybe we might take 1 or 2 others from folks who are on the call. But let me turn now to William Triska, Senior Vice President and Managing Director of Procter & Gamble.
Thank you, Dr. Schneidman. Your Excellency, President Ramaphosa, Ambassador Mfeketo, and Ambassador Marks, honorable ministers and distinguished personalities, good evening from South Africa. Your Excellency, I recall when I first met you in Osaka during this roundtable at the G20 summit. And little over a year ago, we are living in a very, very different world, and a lot of things have changed since then. I want to start by applauding the efforts of presidency to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on the people's lives, as well as on the economy, and the recent launch of the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, which will greatly support the return to growth of industries and businesses like ourselves. Procter & Gamble contributed to curbing the spread of COVID-19 through the donation of more than 16 million rand worth of support, which included some of our health and hygiene products to government organizations and NGOs, as well as direct cash donation to Solidarity Fund to secure the PPEs. We are also remaining a committed investment partner in South Africa. Procter & Gamble expanded our capital investment in the value of 260 million rand alone in the last year by bringing cutting-edge technology to start of local manufacturing of pamper spent in South Africa, as well as expanding our production facilities in Kempton Park, Johannesburg. We will continue to look at new categories for expansion, as well as we will consider investing in additional manufacturing capabilities and models, which will support technology transfer to South Africa. The ease of doing business is a great factor for investment choices, including the flexibility of getting different approvals. And I must say that we have partnered successfully with DTI in fast-tracking some of those approvals, which enabled our fast startup. Now, a question for you, Your Excellency, Mr. President, is regarding energy. I would like to hear your support on energy support for industrial parks like ours, potentially creating dedicated grids to promote uninterrupted power supply. And I would also like to understand government position on promoting responsible and sustainable energy utilization. Thank you.
Company, Africa.
Can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Procter & Gamble is a valued partner to us in South Africa. You've been here for a long time, and your commitment to South Africa is something that we are very proud of. I'm glad you've raised the issue of energy. You will have heard that part of our economic reconstruction and recovery plan has as a key priority area energy stability and ensuring that we have sufficient energy in the economy. We've been having challenges on the energy side for quite a while, with our energy company having faced enormous difficulties. We're pleased to say that the management of our energy company, Eskom, has now stabilized, and they have been working fervently, even during the pandemic, to maintain their power stations, and they're stabilizing the grid. But we also decided that we are going to unbundle Eskom and divide it into three components, which will be generation, which will be a separate entity, which will also be transmission, another separate entity, and distribution. We believe that this will enable our energy company to better manage its own operations and its balance sheet, and also its debt, because it's accumulated enormous debt over the years. But breaking it up into three entities will make it more nimble, and it will make it much more focused on the core businesses of generation, transmission, and distribution. But over and above that, we've now agreed that there can be self-generation of energy, that our municipalities, as well as companies, can generate their own energy. We do this because if we want the economy to grow, we need to have more energy. But going forward, we are also in the next 2 years going to be adding more energy megawatts onto the grid, up to 11,000 megawatts. And as we stabilize our energy company and add more, but also relying on renewable energy sources. Number of companies have been coming forward to bid for renewable energy projects, and we welcome that, because that is adding greater capacity to our energy source. I do believe that going forward, our energy challenges are going to be a thing of the past, and we will be able to have a much more stable energy supply in our economy, as municipalities generate
Frozen for a second, Mr. President.
Hey, this is Breon with the U.S. Chamber. If we could ask everyone to turn their videos off, that will allow us to maintain connectivity with His Excellency.
Mr. President, can you hear us? Looks like we may have lost his feed.
Hi, Whitney. This is Scott Eisner with the U.S. Chamber. I just received a note from the presidency that they're having a storm in Pretoria, and it's leading to some technical challenges, but they're trying to rejoin right now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks for everyone for your patience.
We'll stand by. Okay. Who is what's his name? Okay, I'll give it. Just do me a favor, ask him to send it to you. Okay. Okay, because you can do what you really can do it simply, right? You can handle it like it.
Just a reminder to our guest, while we're waiting for the president to rejoin, you might want to keep your microphones on mute. Thank you.
Sorry, we went on the blink for a while.
Welcome back, Your Excellency.
Sorry about that.
So you were talking about Procter and Gamble and about the energy, about your energy plans for ESCOM.
Yes, and just confirming that on the energy side, I firmly believe that the challenges and problems that we've had in the past are being resolved, and we're going to have a much more stable energy supply environment. And particularly, as I was saying, where we now are going to be giving permits and allowing self-generation by companies as well as by municipalities. And at the same time, we're opening up a bid window another bid window so that the private sector can, for installing and new renewable energy megawatt contributions to our energy network. So this is part of our process of reforms. Reforms that deal with network industries. And if I may just dwell on that a little bit, the network industries will also include the spectrum so that internet connectivity can be a lot easier and faster. We're going to be moving to a higher spectrum. We're soon going to have an auction. We've long delayed with this, but we're going to correct that. We're also going to improve our transportation network. Our ports have also been facing enormous challenges, and we are addressing all that. So all these things are going to happen at a faster speed. Implementation is now going to be the order of the day. And we've set up a team in the presidency as well as in treasury that is going to be making sure that there is real implementation. I've told my cabinet that I no longer want to hear excuses and stories. I just want implementation now. So when they come to me, I say, tell me that we are implementing our plans, and don't tell me about dreams. Don't tell me about excuses. I just want implementation. So we're going to move with greater urgency on energy, on all the other network industries, and reform them effectively to reposition our economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is very reassuring. We're looking forward. We applaud the efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that great answer. I think we'll move to our last question. I know we had some others, but I would just ask other businesses to put them in the chat, and then we can forward them to your office, Mr. President, so they can get the responses that they're seeking. You've been very generous with your time and certainly don't want to run over excessively. So with that, let me turn to Stanley Bergman, CEO of Henry Schein.
Thank you, Whitney. Mr. President, I think my video has been shut down by the host, but I assume you can hear me. Madam Ambassadors, everyone else important on this call, good to be here with you. Mr. President, you may recall my company, Henry Schein, is the largest provider of dental products and products to physicians. I'm going to be very quick. We are making significant progress in moving a part of the dental school, a large part of the dental school at the University of Witwatersrand to Soweto. And of course, we were held back a little bit by the virus, and really looking forward to working with the government, the Ministry of Health, on advancing the opening of dental school capacity in Soweto. And so look forward also to working with your office. And the other point is we had some discussions earlier on, including with Ambassador Mafekito, on activating the diaspora, the South African diaspora in the US, and engaging the diaspora. Many of us want to be more involved in South Africa. Of course, my company has a business there, but there are many South African leaders in commerce, in academia, etc., in the United States that would love to get involved. So hopefully, as the virus recedes, we can be up and running again with programs to engage the South African diaspora in the United States.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bergman. I'd like to thank you and to see you once again. It's a joy. And thank you so much for wanting to focus on one of our depressed areas in Soweto with dental education and dental care. We really, really appreciate that and welcome that immensely. Your commitment to South Africa is something that is really, really impressive. And you speak about the diaspora. I had hoped that I would, when coming to the US for the UN General Assembly meetings, that I would have an opportunity to meet South Africans who are in the diaspora, who want to make a contribution to the country, who want to invest, but that is not to be. We will have to wait for another year when I will have an opportunity to interact with those South Africans who are in the diaspora. I would really like to do that, and I'm hoping that our mutual ambassadors will be able to facilitate that. But at the same time, your efforts to mobilize the diaspora, South Africans who are in the diaspora, to invest in South Africa, to participate in improving the economy of our country is something that I really appreciate. And if that can take place even before I come to the US to meet with the South Africans in the diaspora, we would welcome that dearly, because it is the South Africans who are in the diaspora who have made good, who would be able to make a contribution to their own mother country and improve our economy, transfer technology and knowledge, and also lead to the creation of jobs. So we would welcome that immensely, and I'd like to thank you for the efforts that you are willing to make in this regard. So we thank you and for your continued investments in the dental industry in South Africa. Thank you so much indeed. Thank you.
President, your office has told us we can go for a couple more minutes. So let me invite JP Suarez from Walmart to ask a question. Please make it brief so we can get a couple more in. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Whitney. And Mr. President, thank you very much for the time. Thank you for the opportunity to visit with you and really with the leadership that you and the other government officials have demonstrated during the COVID pandemic. We're excited to work with you. We're excited to support the government with PPE equipment, with food donations, and also continuing with working with Minister Patel on the supplier development program that we know is so important to the country and to small suppliers. So thank you for all of that. As you know, we operate retail stores in South Africa and and the rest of Africa. And as you know, retail is a difficult business. We know that you have to balance the safety of our customers and the people of South Africa, while also the business interests. And I'm wondering if the National Council is considering any easing of restrictions to retail sales in South Africa. And then in particular, if there's any consideration of easing the restrictions on alcohol sales in the country, given the significant part of our retail business that represents. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much for considering the question.
Hello. We have a bit of a storm here, so we keep losing connection. So I didn't hear the question. Maybe you would care to raise the question again.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. My question was around the restrictions in retail sales in South Africa and whether your National Commission is considering easing any of the retail restrictions, in particular the restrictions around the sale of alcohol and the times and the days of alcohol restrictions.
Yes, the answer is yes. We are going to ease the restrictions. The restrictions on the sale of alcohol were imposed because, you know, South Africans have deep throats for alcohol, very deep and broad throats. And during the pandemic, we saw situations where people were imbibing quite a lot of alcohol, ending up in hospitals and taking up the hospital beds that were supposed to be reserved for COVID-19 patients. And when we stopped the sale of alcohol, suddenly the cases in the trauma units of people injured because of car accidents, out of being drunk and all that, came down quite significantly, and suddenly more beds were available. So we felt that those restrictions were paying, good dividends. And when we lifted the restrictions, we saw a spike in trauma cases. But by and large, now that we are at level 1, most of the restrictions have been lifted, and we are going to continue lifting those restrictions because they can never be permanent. We can't ban the sale of alcohol forever, and we're going to open up the economy more and more, as we should, if we want to embark on a recovery and a reconstruction process. So the answer is yes, we are going to ease and remove, not only ease, but remove the restrictions in retail sales. So you can go back to your firm with a bit of a smile on your face, knowing that we are going to eliminate the restrictions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. President. I think you've been so generous with your time, and given the storms, I think we'll just move now to the close of the program and invite Ambassador Lana Marks to say some words. Ambassador Marks.
Your Excellency, President Ramaphosa, Ambassador Mafeketo, other distinguished representatives from the South African government, Scott Eisner, leadership of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Business Council for International Understanding, Corporate Council on Africa, and business executives. I'm so honored to join you today. We are at this time in a moment of unparalleled momentum, unparalleled goodwill, and unparalleled opportunity. The opportunities to further our bilateral relationship are so very robust. Increasing US-South Africa trade and investment has been one of my top priorities since my arrival in South Africa a year ago, and I'm so glad that the American Chamber of Commerce has heeded this call today. In 2020, bilateral trade, though it had decreased in 2019, has increased significantly, 44%. We have made progress. I am eager to keep that momentum going. Events like today's discussion of the broader outline of these efforts encourages greater collaboration, heralding a brighter future for our two great nations. President Ramaphosa, your engagement demonstrates South Africa's commitment in expanding our commercial relationship. I firmly believe this cooperation and collaboration will build not only prosperity in both our countries, but also create a lasting partnership between us. We fully support South Africa's economic recovery plan to help overcome the devastation of this unprecedented health challenge, and we must all work together. I look forward to continuing my engagement with the government of South Africa and all the participants in today's discussion to support and facilitate the achievement of our goals. The opportunities are limitless. The time is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Marks, very much for those very gracious remarks. We share your enthusiasm and affirmative commitment to South Africa. Let me now turn to Stanley Bergman for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Whitney. I realize that we're running late, and the President, no doubt, has other engagements that he needs to urgently attend to. Madam Ambassadors, the organizers of today's events, the sponsors. Thank you very much, Mr. President, Your Excellency, for your time. I had some prepared remarks, but the bottom line is South Africa, and you in particular, sir, have a lot of friends in the United States. This is bipartisan. There are many on the Republican side, there are many on the Democratic side that have a deep affection for South Africa. When you became president, there was a round of applause, whether it was loud or soft, doesn't matter. It was there and it was in people's hearts. People are big fans of South Africa in this country. Maybe not everyone knows about South Africa, but for those that know about South Africa, there's a lot of friendship and a great admiration for what you've done. You promised to do certain things and you did them. And you're focused on the economy and your people's livelihood and employment. You've done a great job for South Africa and of course at the AU for Africa. So thank you. You have a lot of friends and we look forward to meeting you again soon and advancing the interests of the United States and South Africa in tandem. Thank you very much, sir.
Your Excellency, President Ramaphosa, can I invite you for some closing remarks?
Thank you very much. This is quite a unique forum that we are in. Made more unique because we've got two women ambassadors, Madam Ambassadors, who, as they started speaking as young women, they started speaking isiXhosa, the Xhosa language. Ambassador Lana Marks, having been born in South Africa, one of her first languages was Xhosa, and Ambassador Mfeketo, when she started speaking, she spoke isiXhosa. So they are the only two ambassadors in the world who have this uniqueness. So I'm particularly privileged to have been in their presence, both of them representing our two great nations and representing them extremely well. Ambassador Lana Marks in Pretoria and Ambassador Mfeketo in Washington. You are doing a sterling job, and to have brought us here together with all the other business leaders is a great, great feat, and I'd like to thank you for that. Ambassador Marks, you're absolutely right in saying that we have unparalleled opportunity. South Africa really represents unparalleled opportunity. It's a land of great opportunity, and our economy exhibits precisely that. As we chart our way through COVID-19, we are actually saying that the opportunities in our economy are quite immense, and we are inviting investors to come to our country and invest. Invest because this is a place where many global companies that have invested have made money, and have made serious money, because we're a country that has democratic stability. The political stability in our country has been going on for the past 26 years. We've got a great constitution, which underpins our democracy, which also underpins the institutions that support our democracy. We've got one of the best financial systems in the world, and we've got a great industrial capacity in our country, manufacturing capacity, and we've got great people. Our people are getting educated more and more by the year. Just when it comes to education, one of the most important areas of human development is that when we got into office in 1994 under the leadership of Nelson Mandela, there were some 300,000 tertiary education students in South Africa, 350 or 400,000. university students. Today, we have 1.2 million. And when we count colleges, it's 1.5 million. So the education, the human capital capacity of our country is being increased on a daily basis. And that is a reservoir of strength that investors can rely on. But more and more young South Africans are being educated. What we now need to do is to create jobs for them. And it is for this reason that we welcome you to come and invest in South Africa. And those who've been investing in our country, we want to thank you. We thank you dearly for continuing to demonstrate confidence in South Africa. We are improving, we are reforming, we are doing everything that will make sure that we create a great environment for you to invest, to continue investing in South Africa. I look forward to welcoming a number of you to our investment conference, which will be held in a week or so, and hope that we will hear more commitments. But for those who've already invested, we thank you, because your investments will be recorded as the type of investments that have boosted the economic fortunes of our country. So in the end, I'd like to thank you. You are our fellow travelers, you are our partners, and I want this partnership between the United States and South Africa to strengthen at all levels, because we are, after all, great nations, and great nations work together as partners. So thank you very much for this moment. I thoroughly enjoyed participating with all of you in this. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, on behalf of the three organizations, BCIU, Corporate Council on Africa, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, let me thank, first of all, Ambassador Mfeketo and Ambassador Lana Marks and their staffs for making this possible, and you, sir, for taking so much time to sit with us and talk with us and to put a vision and to put a challenge in front of us. I think we all resonated with your opening comment about the need to strengthen and deepen the relationship between the United States and South Africa. That's where you started, and that's where you ended, and I'm sure everybody on this call shares that, as well as the sense of urgency. We can't sit back. The time now is to lean forward and to engage and to work more closely together. So many of us look forward to participating in your investment conference next week. We look forward to working through this era of COVID. We support your leadership, not only in South Africa, but as chair of the African Union, and we'll continue to walk this journey together. So thank you for your time, and look forward to our ongoing collaboration. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay.
That's nice.
Thank you. Are you trying to leave? I can leave now. Leave.